Some nobody with the ramping.
Things coming in. Let's go.
Yeah.
Onde? Onde eles são, né? Vamos não farinha. E cadê a jaquinha? That black. And he's so skinny, so how is that? I guess. How is that? And he's so skinny. Rub together when accidentally.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Flinch-Vassell, and I am the Education Officer with responsibility for Social Studies, the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. This afternoon, we will be looking at how to answer questions when we go into the CSEC Social Studies exam on Thursday, right? So with me this afternoon are some of your teachers and education officer. So I'll introduce them quickly for you. With me today is Miss Jasmine Waite, and she's an education officer in the ministry as well, and she has responsibility for geography. Also with me is Mrs. Kadian Crombie Murray, a senior teacher at Rossies High School. Also here is Mrs. Natalie Mackenzie Williams, senior teacher at Maud McLeod High School, and Mrs. Stephanie Wright Grant, right? Senior teacher at St. Jago High School. All right, so welcome to our session today. We hope that you will find the session very informative. All right, we'll continue with a little preliminary activity, right? Until the others get here, because we're expecting approximately 800 participants and we just have over 100. All right, so to kick things off today, I want you to think about the story of David and Goliath. All right, most of you should be familiar with that story in the Bible. And we have David here, a teenager, going up against a giant. And I read this recently and I didn't think about it before, but when I looked at it, Goliath was over 9 feet tall. So a massive gentleman, right? Today, I want you to think about COVID-19 and all that we have been going through, right? So our Goliath is the COVID-19 pandemic. But note, let's remember that David, although he was a teenager, he was able to defeat this giant, Goliath, right? All the soldiers were afraid of him, but David was not, right? And David was able to defeat Goliath, right? Using his slingshot and some stones, some pebbles. So today we're going to use these are your stones, your pebbles that you are going to use to defeat the Goliath, right? Your exams. So when you go into the exam and before, you're going to do some critical thinking. So that's the first keystone that you're going to use. And today's session will help you to develop your critical thinking skills. So we're going to slay the giant with critical thinking, with knowing the content. Now, we're not going to go through much of that today, right? But your teachers would have been preparing you, and I'm sure you are studying, so you will know your content before you go into the exam. So that's the second stone. And the third one, express yourself clearly. And we'll be helping you with some of that today. All right? So we are not going to fear, we're going to prepare. All right? So we're going to prepare ourselves by learning to think critically or sharpening our critical thinking skills. We're going to prepare by studying the content that we need. And we're going to also prepare by sharpening our communication skills, right? Being able to write the answers the way that the examiners are expecting so that we can maximize our marks, all right? So no fear, just prepare, all right? We're going to be ready for that exam on Thursday, okay? So some rules of engagement for today. So mute your mic, right? So remain muted until you're ready to speak. You're going to use the raise hand feature today, right? Because I expect you to interact with me to ask questions and answer questions as well. And you may also use the chat to ask questions and to answer questions, right? The teachers will be here and they're going to assist by answering some of your questions that you ask in the chat, right? And they'll be helping to monitor the chat room as well as the raise hand feature, okay? And most of all, I want you to pay attention. So we don't want you to log in and then disappear. A very important session, so we want you to pay attention, all right? So before we go any further, I'm going to ask Mrs. Kadian Combe Murray to say a word of prayer for us. Mrs. Murray.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, everyone gathered. As we are about to begin this session, we want to ask the presence of God to be with us as we go forward. Let us pray. Eternal God and righteous Father, we come before you this afternoon, giving you thanks for all your many blessings. We thank you for your mercies. Father, as we go through this workshop with our teachers and our students, we ask that you be with us. Give us clarity. Help us to be brave enough to put our thoughts out there, our questions out there, so we can get clarity so that we can be more prepared for those exams coming this week. Father, you know each person gathered here, their individual situations. Cover them, I pray. In these trying times, we ask for mental clarity, Father. And Lord, be with them as they go into those exams. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you very much, Mrs. Murray. Thank you for that. All right, let us continue. Now, before we go into the session fully, I want you to think about your learning style, right? Think about how you learn best, because how you learn best is important when you're studying, right? Are you a visual learner? Do you need to be reading your textbook, reading your notes, reading the PowerPoint presentations that the teachers have shared with you? So if you're a visual, you need to be reading, right? You can also use graphic organizers, right? Write down things, use little symbols and so on to remember, right? If you don't study, no matter how hard you pray, when you go into the exam, there's nothing to recall, or God can't help you to recall what was not put there, all right? So we want you to study, okay? And as you are studying, take a note of your learning style. Do I learn best by images? Do I need to see things? Do I need to see the written word? Do I need to see pictures? And if that is the case, make that a part of your study routine. Auditory or discussion. Some people, they need to study in a group and they need to hear others talking and studying and discussing topics with them, right? If you are that person, right, and you can find other persons whose learning style is similar, then you need to study together, right? Even if you're a visual person, I would suggest that you form a study group, have your study partners, and bounce ideas and answers and questions off each other, all right? And then tactile. Some of you might be tactile. You need to be touching things or making things or doing things, right? For social studies, it might be a little challenging, but you can still come up with different ways to do it, to make little things that will remind you, of definitions, because you need to, there are some things that you will have to just know when you go into the exam. So you'll just have to have the knowledge, okay? And some people like myself, when I'm studying, I write, I read and I write. I write answers. I read past paper questions and I write answers. I read the textbook and I summarize. So read, write. And some people have like a combination of styles. I'm also very visual. I like to see things. I will remember when I see, okay? So you have to be aware of who you are and what works best for you when you are studying, okay? So this brings me to Socrates, know thyself. You have to know what works best for you, okay? So when do I learn best? Some persons learn best in the wee hours of the morning. They can get up at 3 a.m. and study, and that works for them. Others learn best in the middle of the day, or some late at night. So know yourself and understand what works best for you. And where do I learn best? My advice here, don't go into the bed. You will fall asleep. Sit at the dining table, right? Don't sit in front of the television or have the radio in the background. It might not be the best for you. You need to have a quiet space where you can concentrate, where you can absorb what you are reading, okay? So don't go in front of the TV, put away the devices, right? And you need to focus. Should I study alone or in a group? It might not be either or. You might study alone first, and then you might want to study in a group. Some people just do group study. Some people just study alone, all right? So know what works best for you. And most importantly, do I have a copy of the C6 Social Studies syllabus? You must. Before you go into that exam, if you have not already done so, I want you to go to cxc.org and download a copy of the syllabus. The syllabus is what will guide you. You see all those terms that you need to define, they are listed in the syllabus. So you need to go there, right? And find those terms and maybe create a glossary, write down the definitions and practice and study. All right, so for our session today, by the end of the session, we want you to have a clear understanding of the format of the exam. Most of you should know it already. And we're going to provide you with some exam tips that you will use in the exam to get those grade 1s and 2s, right? We're getting too many grade 3s in the social study exam. So we want to improve the quality of the passes. So we need some grade 1s. And we will help you to decode questions. And guess what? I will be providing you with a sample essay, right, at the end, so that you can look at what a good essay or a fairly good essay looks like, right, before you go into the exam, okay? Now quickly, the format of the exam, the school-based assessment. I need to plug this in here. If you have not submitted your SBA, if you don't submit your SBA, when the teacher asks you for it and it's not sent off to CXC, you will not be getting results, okay? And I'm sure all of you know this already. So if there's no SBA, there's no exam result. Then you will have your paper 1 with your multiple choice questions and your paper 2, which will be the focus of our session today, where you have your structured questions and your essay questions. All right, so today our focus will be on paper 2. And paper 2 now consists of 2 sections. Section A, 4 questions, and you must answer all of these questions in section A. It is compulsory, okay? So you have to study all the areas in section A, right? And there are 4 questions, you must answer all 4. Topics that you must study: the family, groups and institutions, government, and notice government is in red, because it is an area that a lot of people find challenging. Resources, physical and human. Regional integration is also in red because it's an area that students usually find challenging. And then section B, which is the option section, where you will answer one question, either communication, consumer affairs, or tourism, right? So in all, you have to prepare to answer 5 questions. Okay, so you have to prepare well. So, as a Girl Guide, I'm always prepared, so make sure you are prepared. So this is what we're going to do today. We're going to help you to prepare for that exam. Just showing you this. Now your exam, when you get your results, you'll see 2 profiles, profile 1 and profile 2. Profile 1 talks about knowledge and comprehension. So all those definitions that you have to know and so on, that comes under profile 1. Right, but that's only 40% of the marks, right? 40 marks there. Where the bulk of the mark is evaluation, application, evaluation, and problem solving, right? So we'll focus a lot on that today so that you will get the grade 1, right? So profile 1, you have to know the facts. You have to go and study, right? Now, a lot of persons think that they know the social studies content because it's very relatable, right? You live in a family, you exist in groups and so on, but guess what? You cannot write those definitions that you think you know, right? You have to study, you have to go to the textbooks and get the correct definitions. So markers are always saying students are speaking from the top of their heads, they're not speaking from facts, right? So you have to define terms, use appropriate terms, and then profile 2, organize information. So your essay writing and your strategies and justification, organize information, propose solutions, explain and support whatever decision or strategy that you are going to put forward. All right, so the exams are this week, right? You still have time to do a few things and to make it right. All right, so I want you to make sure that you are taking notes. All right, make sure you take notes, write. Some of you have not been writing enough. When you go in the exam later this week, you will be expected to write. Are you still hearing me and seeing me? Miss Wright?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. I thought I lost internet. All right, and as I said before,
You're still here.
mics and use the raise hand feature and talk to me. We need to hear from you. We want the feedback. We want the questions so that we can help you before you go into the exam. All right? Now, when you are in that exam, you will need to manage your time well. Right? You have 2 hours and 40 minutes to do the exam, right? And you have 5 questions. So you can't spend 2 hours on just one question. You have to manage your time well, okay? And decide how much time you spend on one question, and when time is up, you have answered all 5 questions and done a reasonably good job, okay? Now, make sure you read your questions carefully, okay? Analyze the question. What am I being asked to do? And the first thing you need to look at is to look at the verb. Am I being asked to define, or to describe, or to list, or to name, or to give suggestions? Okay, what am I being asked to do? Okay, so identify, right? That's one of the verbs that you're going to see being used with the questions. So you're being asked to point out distinguishing features, okay? Define, give the precise meaning essential qualities. Describe. So describe is different from define, right? So if you're asked to describe this particular girl or this particular boy, you know, you say he's tall, he's muscular, bow legs. The girl, she has long legs or something like that. So you describe. Explain. So you're going to give details, the what, the why, and sometimes inclusive of how. Okay? An outline, you're giving the main features or characteristics. Suggest. Give clear, well thought out details. That's what we mean by suggest. Okay? And justify, you provide good reason for the strategy, action, or the decision. Okay? So these are some of the common verbs that you will see. All right, so let's look at some questions now. And this is where I'm going to ask you to use the chat or the raise hand feature, right? So teachers, I want you to help me to monitor the chat and the raise hand feature. So this is a simple question. We're starting off with the simple ones. It says identify 2 family types other than the single parent family, which is found in the Caribbean. All right, so I want you to put your answers in the chat, right? And I see some raised hands. I see Chloe, that's the first one I saw. So Chloe, please allow Chloe, please unmute Chloe so that she can answer this question.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
2 types, not single family, nuclear family and sibling household.
Okay, what is the verb there, Chloe? It says to identify. All right, so I want you to give me a little more than just the name. Right, for this one?
Sibling.
You said the nuclear family. So what are the basic features of the nuclear family?
The nuclear families consist of 2 parents and a child or more children.
Okay, and they're usually living in the same household.
Yes, miss.
All right, thank you very much. And the other type of family that you identified?
Sibling household consists of brothers and sisters when parents are absent.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Chloe. All right, good. All right, and we have another family type here. Right, everybody knows the royal family. Right, and which type is here? I see Joel has a raised hand. Please allow Joel to ask his question or to answer.
Professor,
Yes.
you realize what just happened a while ago?
No, what happened?
The student was hesitant or did not add the household, the residence part of it.
Okay.
And that is what we usually find that they miss off.
All right, thank you for that, Mrs. Murray. Did you hear that, students?
Living in the same.
All right. There was another hand raised.
We have Tiffany Richards.
All right, go ahead, Tiffany.
Go ahead, Tiffany.
So, like when you they ask to identify, if you have to explain their reason for answer.
No, it's not an explanation you are giving, you know. Is that you are giving the essential features so that you not only say that The other types are like a nuclear family or blended or extended, but you have to tell us who are the members of this family. And as Mrs. Crumpy Morris said, you have to say that they're living in the same household.
The same household.
Right, they're living under the same roof, okay? So
Yes,
if
miss.
there are 2 marks for this, if you just say blended, you might just end up with 1 mark, okay? So you have to give a full response, okay? Any other question on this one? Or any other comment?
Mrs. Blanco?
Go ahead.
Mrs. Blanco?
Go ahead, Mrs. Mackenzie. Mrs. Williams, go ahead.
Yes. I noticed that many students in offering an answer, they simply wrote
They simply wrote, I think we lost her. I didn't hear all of that, Mrs. Mackenzie Williams.
I think Mrs. Finch, I think she's saying that students just listed the family type instead of telling the essential features of the 2 family types.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Right.
Any other student with a raised
You're
hand,
welcome.
teachers?
Tiffany is back. And Stefan Ellis.
Tiffany?
Go ahead, Tiffany.
All right, we're not hearing from Tiffany. Let's take somebody else and then we'll move on.
She said that one was a mistake.
Okay. All right, let us move on. Now, another verb that you will see, and very often in the exam, is define. So they will say, define the following, right? For example, define regional integration. And notice here, I have some terms in red, right? Because when they're marking, they're looking for specific things in that definition. So here we have a group of countries in a geographic region. So you don't have to use exactly those terms, but once we're talking about regional integration, we're talking about countries that are in close proximity to each other geographically, right? So group of countries in a geographic region get together and develop a formal agreement to cooperate with each other, right? For example, they're cooperating about the removal or reduction of trade barriers, right? So when you are writing your definitions, they're looking for certain key terms, and if those terms are not included, then you are not going to get full marks. Okay, so for your definitions, you are not expected to write off the top of your heads. You are expected to go to your textbooks and reliable online sources to get definitions. All right, teachers, is there anything else that we would include, that you would suggest that they include in this definition of regional integration? So you have to talk about the countries, and they are in close proximity to each other. It's a geographic region, and they have to get together in a formal way, right? And they're cooperating with each other, and it may be cooperation in terms of trade. So the removal of trade barriers, okay? All right.
All right, good to go.
Yes, miss.
All right. Next term, you might be asked to define the single market. Okay? So the single market involves the removal of all barriers to the movement of goods, capital, and labor, right? So we have moved towards a single market, right, with the CSME, okay? So they have removed barriers to the movement of goods, capital, and labor. Not totally, we're almost there, not fully there. And sometimes members adopt a common currency, like the European Union, and they have the euro, okay? So when you are writing your definitions, they cannot come from the top of your heads. You need to go and you need to study and make sure that there are certain key terms that are in these definitions, okay? So I'm saying to you again, go to the CXC website, download the syllabus, and for every unit, section A, where you have the family, you'll find a list of terms there: divorce, alimony, incest, marriage. All of those terms, they have specific meanings. And you cannot write the meaning of the man on the road or what you think it means. You have to write the correct definition, right? So while you're studying, go to the CXC syllabus, write out all of those words, go to your textbook and write proper and complete definitions for all, okay? All of those terms, okay? Now another verb that you will see is describe, okay? What does it mean to describe? Now, one way in the question, describe one way in which formal groups control the behavior of members. All right, so I want you now to write a brief description in the chat, and the teachers will monitor before we move on to just see what are some of the answers. So you have to write at least one sentence. Describe. Description is not usually one word. You have to write at least a sentence, at least one. So let's see what some of those responses are. So teachers, I'm going to ask you to just read some of the responses from the chat.
Not seen anything as yet.
All right, they want to raise
Okay,
their
by
hand.
having clear written, I'm seeing some, Mrs. Flinch-Vassell, by having clear written standard rules. Formal groups will control their members by outlining clear structural rules for them to abide by.
Okay, all right, so we are getting there, good. All right, so the verb is to describe, and then you are required to give sufficient details so that the examiner can clearly identify what you were asked to describe, okay? What information do you need to answer this question? You must know what is a formal group, and you must know, right, how the behavior of members are controlled within formal groups, okay? So you are all members of formal groups, you know, right? So some persons are members of a cadet, some people are members of a church. You're all members of a school community, right? And those are all formal groups. And I'm sure you can relate to what happens in the school, right? In the school, your behavior is definitely controlled, okay? And there are different ways that the school administration will use to control your behavior. First of all, as the student said, there are written rules, right? And there are also sanctions that go along with these rules, right? So first thing, we have to know what is a formal group, okay? You don't have to write this in your answer. We're just going through to say, this is what you need to understand in order to answer the question, okay? So a formal group, right? Your 4-H club has a clear organizational structure, appointed leader, or the leader may be elected, specific goals, written rules, sanctions, and criteria for membership. So if you're ever asked to define the term formal group, these are the things that you have to include in the definition, okay? So a formal group has these characteristics. How do the formal groups control behavior? Rules and sanctions. So at school, you definitely have rules. At church, there are rules. In the cadet, there are rules. Red Cross, the uniform groups, they will have the rules, right? All of these formal groups, they do have rules, right? Or laws, right? And norms also serve to control behavior. So we have rules and sanctions, and by sanctions we mean punishment or a reward. We have the laws and we have the norms. So if you do something out of the norm, so if you go into church and as a female you decide to wear a pair of shorts, right? You know that that is not the norm, and you may be ostracized or people are going to look at you in a funny way. So that is going to control your behavior. You know, you won't wear that to church again, okay? All right, so let's get it clear. So back to the question, describe one way, just one, so you don't have to give all three. Describe one way in which formal groups control the behavior of members. And as the participant said, the use of written rules will control behavior, and you can definitely give an example. You can give an example from your school or from the cadet if you're a member of the cadet, or you're a member of church and so on. You can actually give an example, okay? So the formal group, for example, the cadet controls the behavior of its members by applying written rules or sanctions. I see a raised hand. Go ahead. Jordana. Teachers, are you seeing that raised hand? A Clark, Jordana Clark.
Yes, yes.
Please
Yes, go ahead, Jordana. Please unmute.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
So give a way in how it repeat the question, miss.
Says describe one way in which formal
How
groups
do-
control the behavior of members.
Control behavior. Okay. It gives a level of a formal group can control the behavior of its members because as it gives a level of respect for those in a higher position than them. That's one way.
You have to give me an example, because I'm not.
Yes,
Give me an example so I can see if we can accept that answer.
As in,
So
okay.
the example will allow you to have a better response.
Okay. So one example is a member in church would respect an elder as it like a bishop, their bishop in church, as they are in a higher position and they are set in that position, so they have to give a certain level of respect, and that controls their behavior in everyday life, knowing that if somebody's in a higher position than them, they would have to give them a certain level of respect.
Jordana, what kind of behavior? Describe what behavior would that control? I'm still trying to get your point.
Behavior. Okay. It would control behavior. It would be your everyday, your social.
All right,
Your
yes, when you're
social-
answering a question like this, I want you to identify the behaviors that are controlled in a group. So in church, there are certain behaviors. Give me one behavior in church one thing in church that people do. One sort of behavior. One behavior of members.
Socialization.
No, that's not. I want you to be very specific, man.
Yeah, what will people normally do in church that is deemed ungodly?
Praise and worship. Ungodly, breaking the rules, that disrespect.
No, man, be more specific. What is the disrespect?
That is deemed ungodly.
What is the disrespect?
Disrespect of.
What would they do to disrespect the
breaking
pastor?
rules and regulations set up by the church.
Yeah, man, but that is not the behavior. I need a very specific behavior.
Oh, disregarding what the pastor is saying.
And you're still very general with me now, so I don't know what the behavior is. All right, so suppose, I know some churches might say, I don't know, you're not to wear jewelry.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Some churches will say, no jewelry except your wedding band. Right? What happens if you break that rule?
Well, you would, at my church, I would know for everybody, they would put you to sit down. If you're on a special platform or something like that, they would take you down for a while so that you understand where you are, or you understand the place.
Okay,
so
that
if you're on a special platform, for example, if you're
on the choir, they'll take you off the choir. Or if you're a deaconess or so on, you are. So that is how they're going to control your behavior. But so because you know that if you break this particular rule, there's a sanction or punishment, then you conform by not wearing the jewelry. So if you're going to give an example, I want you to give a very clear example like that one. So the examiner
I am seeing one.
Can see.
Using indecent language.
In church.
Yes, yes.
Or anywhere. In Jamaica, it is not legal, you know, so you can be locked up for it. Right? But remember, we're talking about a formal group. So in your response, I want you to identify that formal group.
Yes,
right?
For example, the church.
Right.
For example, school.
For example, school. Okay? So you have to be very clear. And there's another raised hand, teachers.
I am seeing McLennan from Jonathan Grant. Hi. Speak, please.
Miss.
Yes.
Miss, for example, Miss, the cadet group, Miss, they strongly enforce the rules, Miss, and sanctions, Miss. So if you like disobey a direct order from the commandant, Miss, you could lose your stripes, Miss, or get punishment.
Okay, and I understand that clearly. So he identified, or she, I'm not sure.
Miss, a boy, Miss.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. All right, so we know that that formal group is the cadet, and we know that the rule, we hear the rule that is broken, and we also hear the sanction or the punishment. So that is how they would control behavior. So you don't want to lose your stripes, so you would not disrespect a superior officer. All right? Yes. All right, thank you for that. So make sure when you are writing, you cannot be too general. Be very specific and be very clear. Remember, one of the stones that we're going to use to slay this dragon is to express ourselves clearly. Okay? All right. So this other verb now, to explain. Now this requires sometimes a little more than a description, right? The description, you just giving them a clear picture as to what is happening. Now in explain, sometimes you have to say the how and the why, okay? So this question, explain 2 ways in which Caribbean citizens benefit from regional cooperation other than in education. All right, so they rule out education. And now you are to explain 2 other ways in which Caribbean citizens benefit. All right, so I'm giving you a minute to think about it. And then you may raise your hand or you may type in the chat. To explain, you know, is not state or name. It is now to explain how the country, how the Caribbean citizens will benefit from regional integration. So teachers, as usual, please help me to monitor the chat. All right, I'm seeing a hand from Jonathan Grant High, McLennan.
He spoke earlier, so I'm going to take it. Is it, all right, go ahead.
Oh, it's the young man who spoke before.
Yes, but I don't know if he still wants to speak because I lowered the hand and it came back up.
Okay. Any responses?
So I'm going
in
to
the chat?
lower it. Regional integration would support regional business and the government.
Mrs. Grant? Mrs. Grant? Mrs. Murray? Don't know what happened to Mrs. Grant there. All right, let me move on and show you a possible response to this question. So remember it asked about how the citizens will benefit, you know. So read your question carefully. 2 ways which the Caribbean citizens will benefit from regional cooperation. All right? So Caribbean citizens benefit from increased employment opportunities, right? So we have stated it, right? But you need to explain, you need to go a little further, right? As they are able to work and travel freely across the region. Add a little more to it, the Caribbean Skills Certificate facilitates such employment. So it's the how and the why and the what. So how they benefit, right? So you say they benefit through employment, right? And you have to show, since it's regional cooperation, it means that they're gonna have to leave their country, Jamaica or Trinidad, and be able to work in another country. A lot of Jamaicans work in Trinidad, in Antigua, Barbados, and so on. And they also come here to work. So it's increased employment opportunities for Caribbean people. Okay? And this is facilitated through the Caribbean Skills Certificate. So that's one way. All right? Am I getting teachers? Any more responses from our students?
Mrs. French Vessel? McCleary seems to have his hand up.
Go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Claire, go ahead. Go ahead, McClare. Not getting a response from McClare. But if we see in the chat, it says here, this is Brianna Hawthorne. Says Caribbean citizens benefit through new opportunities. For example, expanding their business outside of their residential country, as well as seeking health benefits in another country that might not be available to them in their place of residence.
Okay, but you know, that would be 2. Right? So she gave 2. Okay, all right, we got 2 there. All right, so she spoke about establishing businesses in another country, right? And then seeking health care or receiving health care in another country, all right? And you can actually expand on those points that you have there, okay? All right, any other? So those are good points.
Okay, Makar was trying to respond, but he needed to be unmuted. Let me see if I can help him there.
All right, in the meantime, let's look at the second way. So Caribbean citizens benefit from the removal of duties and tariffs from goods being traded in the region.
Miss.
Go ahead.
Mrs. Finch Russell, he's up.
All right, go ahead.
Like, for instance, Miss, there is a natural disaster, Miss, happening now, Miss. That could, regional cooperation, Miss, it could allow the other countries to probably send over some nurses and some soldiers to help with the cleanup and to help with the treatment of people in the country, Miss.
Okay, thank you. That's a good one. And you can look at St. Vincent and the volcanic eruption that they had the other day and the help that they received from the other countries in the Caribbean. Okay, sir. Good one. Thank you.
Yes,
all right. So Caribbean citizens benefit from the removal of duties and tariffs from goods being traded in the region. This results in lower costs for the goods to the consumer, thus increasing the consumer's purchasing power and standard of living. So we remove the taxes, and a lot of you now are buying online, and some people, when they realize that they have to pay customs duties or taxes, and they realize it's so much, sometimes they can't even collect the packages, right? But if we have a regional cooperation, so if the goods are coming from within CARICOM, they do not pay these duties. And because they don't pay these duties, when these goods get on the supermarket shelves, they are lower. The cost is lower than goods coming from outside of the region. And because of that, they're cheaper, and then people can buy more, and it can even affect your standard of living, right? So you explain as fully as possible, okay? Any other comments or questions from students?
I see Kaysan Brown.
Kaysan Brown, go ahead.
Kaysan Brown.
Okay, good afternoon, Miss.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so a way that regional cooperation can help to benefit Caribbean citizens is that if students wish to go to other Caribbean countries for educational purposes, they may do so freely.
Okay, give me an example.
Okay, Miss. So like if a student who wishes to become a doctor wants to go to Cuba to study because they have better the person feel like they have a better education system in Cuba. For doctors, they may do so freely.
All right, so but I'm going to ask you not to use Cuba as an example, because it comes under the topic here, regional integration, and Cuba is not a member of CARICOM. So you would have to talk about Jamaican students going to Trinidad to study engineering, or students from Barbados coming to Jamaica to study, say, geography or medicine or something like that. Okay? So we
Yes, ma'am.
benefit, right? So be careful if you're going to use examples, they have to be correct. So if we're talking about regional integration, don't use Cuba as an example, okay? So the cooperation, we cooperate in terms of education. We don't have to have a university in every Caribbean country, all right? So the students from St. Vincent, St. Kitts, Grenada, they can travel to Jamaica or Trinidad or Barbados to attend university, right? So they have opportunities to get higher education and then better employment, better for the region. All right, so let's move on. There's another verb that is often used, and it says give reasons, or give one reason for difficulties which may arise in pursuing integration among OECS members. So they're not talking about the entire Caribbean now. They're talking about members of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. And it's just one reason, right? So you're telling why difficulties may arise in pursuing integration among OECS countries, all right? So, I think I jumped the gun there. I didn't allow you to respond, but you can still respond. You can still raise your hand. You don't have to give this reason that I have here. So individual countries give priority to their own development rather than to the development of the region as a whole. And thus little effort is placed on encouraging integration. All right, so you're giving a reason. Everybody is looking out for themselves. They're not looking at the region as a whole, and then it's a difficulty, right, for all of us, because we're looking for self instead of looking at the big picture. Okay. Any hands raised or responses in the chat for this question?
I guess for the reason why we need to be cooperating is unequal distribution of resources, Krishan says here. But I would want Krishan to pay attention carefully to what the question says. If one reason difficulties may arise in pursuing integration, right? Not one challenge that we're having that will cause us to want to integrate, but a reason why difficulties may arise while we pursue coming together.
Okay.
So I think he didn't read the question carefully, Bench Vassal.
All right, thank you. All right, what would you want him to say instead, Mrs. Crombie-Murray? What?
I would want him to look at balance in economic strengths.
Okay.
Because for countries to come together, they may think that since I am a bigger country, economically I'm stronger, I may have to carry the burden of other countries that are not as developed economically. And that may give a problem, a difficulty to really reach that level of integration where we're actually working together as we should to bring about those changes we need.
All right. Thank you very much for that. All right. So the countries may produce similar products, and this encourages competition rather than cooperation among them. So difficulties may arise because they're going to compete with each other for the same market in the international space or even within the Caribbean region. So it may arise, but we can overcome these difficulties or challenges, okay? And there may be a difficulty as well because of our preference for goods produced outside of the region. That's what we mean by extra-regionally, at the expense of those produced by member states. All right, so it may pose a difficulty. All right, Remember, we are focusing.
Professor?
Yes, go ahead.
When you're ready for the chat?
Yes.
You said taxes imposed on imports to a country can cause trading difficulties. Another one says countries are being too competitive with each other, and that blocks the level of integration they may have.
Okay, all right. So taxes, if taxes are placed on goods that are coming from within the region, so you have to make it very clear, right? So if taxes are placed on goods that are being exported from, say, Trinidad and imported into Jamaica, when they reach Jamaica, they have to pay taxes. We're using OSCS, sorry. So we're going to the Eastern Caribbean. So if that is the case, it may pose challenges, right? But make it clear that the taxes are imposed on goods that are traded within the region, between countries. Okay, clear? Mrs. Cromby-Murray, could you repeat the second part of the response?
Okay, let me get back in the chat. It says that countries may have difficulty coming together because they are very competitive.
Okay.
And that hinders what they can do.
I think that is similar to the second point that we have here, right? So
yes,
we produce similar goods. A lot of the countries, we all producing bananas, we're producing sugar, right? We have tourism as a product out there, and we are competing for we're competing for the same tourists. The tourists coming from Canada, UK, USA, and so it might be competition rather than cooperation, but there are ways we can cooperate. All right, now we're moving on, and this time we're moving on to those questions that ask for a suggestion. They say suggest, right? And after the suggestion, the second part of the question usually says justify or explain why it would work, okay? And some students find this challenging. But before we go into a past paper question, I just want to throw out a question for you. It's social studies, right? This will not come on the exam paper, but in Jamaica now, we're having a situation, right? Well, globally, it's the COVID-19 pandemic, and globally, there is a challenge with vaccine hesitancy. People do not want to take the vaccine. So I want you to put yourself now in the position of the government, or say Prime Minister Andrew Holness. And the first thing I want you to come up with is just to explain one strategy, right? One strategy that you would use to get Jamaicans to take the vaccine. One strategy. And then you have to tell us why you think that strategy will work. All right, so I'm giving you a minute to think about that. So one strategy that you will use to get Jamaicans to take the vaccine, and you have to tell us why that strategy will work. We have a Prime Minister already, Ronaldo Barrett. Okay, please allow Mr. Barrett to speak.
Coming to Mr. Barrett, coming. Go ahead, Barrett.
Okay,
Barrett?
good evening,
Yes,
teachers and students or classmates. My first strategy will be trying to educate the public of why they should take the vaccine. By educating the public, I will use media such as radio and TV or social media application platforms.
Okay, what message would you be sending what would the message be saying? What would you, because you're going to educate them, what are you going to tell them to make them take the vaccine?
Educate them on the reason why it is important or essential for them to take the vaccine, and that it will
All right, I want you to
make you live a happy life.
To get more real with me, because we're in this pandemic and there's a hesitancy, and it's a lot because there are all these theories about what the vaccine will do to you and so on. So what can you tell the people? Because they know that if they don't take it, they might get the COVID and die. But the message is also saying, even if you take the COVID, there's a chance that you may still get
You still might die.
Yeah, so you see the challenge that the Prime Minister is having. So I want you to come up with an innovative, think out of the box as the Prime Minister now. What on earth can you tell these people to make them take the vaccine? Is there anything that you think you could tell them? Because you say education.
Yes, in the explanation part, I will tell them that if they don't take the vaccine, their life will not be preserved and they will not have the chance to spend the amount of time that they want to spend with their families and friends. And that will be a full stop right there. Then I will go into another sentence and said, I will said, if you take the vaccine, we can enjoy our life more and live a longer, healthier life.
So which part, where is the justification? Why do you think people will respond to this message?
It's because it will preserve their life, the vaccine. Okay. It will make them live a happy life. It will make every Jamaican get back the chance to go back to their recreational activities such as partying and playing football or just interacting with each other freely on the road at late nights.
Okay, so what I want you to do, thank you very much, sir. So when you are writing, you have to make sure that you separate the strategy from the justification. So that the strategy is the what or the how. And the justification is when you start to ask the why. Why will this work? If I tell the people that the vaccine is good for them and they won't get sick and so on, why will that work? Okay. Was there any other hand that was raised, another strategy?
Yes, I'm seeing Romario. Romario, you can go ahead and unmute Romario. Ronaldo Barnett.
Miss, I was the person that talked about it.
Okay, let me try Romario Thompson then. Thank you, Ronaldo. Trying Romario Thompson now.
Yeah, good day, Miss. Another way that you can convince the person to take the vaccine is by not telling them that it won't cure corona, but trying to convince them that it can lessen the amount of person that have it.
So why do you think that message will work? You have to tell us why. So you told us a message. Why you think people would listen to that message and take the vaccine? So whatever strategy you come up with, you have to say why you think it will work, right? So you will send them this message that, all right, you need to take the vaccine and so on. But why you think people are going to listen to that message, right? And so social studies is helping you to think critically. And this is the critical thinking part of it that we've been talking about. How you answer these questions, the strategies that you come up with. All right? So, I see some more raised hands. All right. Please give me a second.
Yes, let's try Jordana Clark.
Okay, hi Miss. Good day. My strategy would be to use get some volunteers, like get 2 everyday persons that go through everyday life. I mean normal persons, and get 2 vaccines. They have 2 vaccines, they correct, and you show the progress of the vaccine in their system and how they go about life living with the vaccine. And why I think this would work with Jamaicans is because it would show that, okay, this is a normal everyday person that is just like me, who took the vaccine and they're going through life just the same. It might not be, show the bad times, show the good times with the vaccine, so that Jamaicans know that, okay, this is something that I can do, this is something that is safe, and it's not going to mean the end of the world, because that's what I've heard a lot of people saying, oh, this is the end of the world, this is, so and so. But show that this is healthy, this is good for you, and this will expand your life expectancy. Well, not life expectancy, but it would expand it would expand your chance. It would give you a better chance at living life as usual. So that's my strategy.
Okay, your strategy and your justification, right? Thank you very much. All right, so you will have to be thinking of a lot of strategies and the justification for these strategies in the exam, right? So your suggestion or your strategy, right, is a plan. You have to come up with a plan. And you must describe your plan or strategy in detail. Okay? So, give examples, and these should be feasible. And it must be developed and explained. Why will this work? That's your justification. Once you start answering the question, why will this work? You have crossed over into justification. And you have to be very careful, right? That you don't go over into the justification while you are explaining the strategy itself. You need to learn to separate the two, okay? So you have to provide good reasons why this plan or this strategy will work, right? And it must be linked to the suggestion, all right? So at this time, I am going to stop, and I'm going to allow Mrs. Crombie Murray, right, to share a little more with you on writing your strategies and your justification. So I'm going to stop sharing and allow Mrs. Crombie Murray to go ahead and share with you. Mrs. Crombie Murray, you may go ahead when you're ready.
Yes, just pulling this screen up. All right, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're seeing my screen. It should say something about critical thinking skills. Are we there? Mrs. Finch-Vassell, are you seeing that screen?
Yes, yes, I'm seeing it.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. All right, so now students, we are at paper 2, that part of the 3-component exam that carries the mighty portion of the marks. And what Mrs. Finch-Vassell was just doing with you is a little brain exercise, getting you to think about how you could better present your answers. All right, now, so for level 2, we're asking that you analyze, you reason, you evaluate, you make a decision to solve a problem. So critical thinking is the ability to analyze your way of thinking, presenting evidence to support ideas rather than simply presenting your personal opinion as sufficient proof. So you heard earlier on, you cannot give answers just off the top of your head. They need to be properly sorted out so that they are substantial. All right, so you have to explain your point of view, giving compelling or convincing evidence. All right, now, so to do this, you have to ask yourself, what is the issue in the question? You remember not too long, one student participating quite well, and I'm glad that she did. When she gave her answer, we realized that she read the question incorrectly, right? So you have to read the question correctly and ask yourself, what is the issue in the problem? What is the problem that is in the question, rather? And next, you have to ask yourself, why does this issue need solving? A while ago, we were talking about vaccination, right? Why is it that persons not taking the vaccine is a problem in Jamaica? And then you have to look at who is this strategy supposed to help? With the problem of the vaccine, the strategy you're going to put forward, who is it supposed to help? Is it going to be the entire Jamaica that it is supposed to help, or a target age group? You can decide based on the question asked of you. And then you ask, what needs to be achieved? If I am going to solve this problem, and I'm going to put a strategy together, what is it that I need to get to so that I can say, yes, this problem is solved? So in doing that, I have to ask myself, what are the resources that I will need to help me to solve this problem? And your resources can be human resources. Who is it that I need to call on to help me to get things sorted out? It can be the material resources. What equipment will I need to solve the problem? Your solution can be a financial one. Where will I get funding, sponsorship to solve the issue that is presented in the question? All right? So we look at the strategies, and your strategies can be drawn from various areas. We have here social. So Mrs. Finfassel, if we could say, all right, what are the causes of, or let's say drug abuse then? What strategies can be put in place to reduce drug abuse or reduce crime? We can look at the social area from which we can draw a solution. Is it that we're going to educate the people about the dangers of a high crime rate to our economy and our tourist industry in particular? Are we going to look at our culture? What is it about our culture that we need to change? Is it a psychological thing that we need to pull on? Is it something in our mind, frame of mind, that we have to change? Is it that we're too aggressive, right? And do we need to get down to the community level to get this problem solved? The solution can lie in the political realm. Is it that government needs to put policies in place, laws in place, to help to curb the issue that we're having, right? We can ask those questions when we are getting to the strategy part of things. And we have economic here, capital and labor. Anyone there can remind us what the term capital means? Mrs. Finch Vassal or Miss Mackenzie, could you help somebody to unmute so they can tell us what the term capital means?
But it said equipment, assets to start a business, money. Those are some of the responses.
Right. So your capital can be investment or assets that you can put up, money, yes. And then your labor. If it is that we are having a problem concerning proper road surfaces in our community, what labor do we need to put together as a group to help to solve the problem, right? So all these 4 components, you can look at them and draw some ideas from them. And remember, the strategic questions, you can ask yourself, what is the issue in the question? Why does this issue need solving? Who is this strategy supposed to help? What needs to be achieved? What are the required resources to get this solved? Where or when should the strategy be implemented? And who should be involved in the implementation? And I'm sure Mrs. Finch Vassal said to you, get ready to take jottings so you can take all of those down. All right, and I know some of you have your phones if you want to take a snap, no problem. I'll just give you a second or two. Are there any questions in the chat, Mrs. Finch Vassal?
Well, students are asking if the meeting is going to be shared. I will share the PowerPoint presentation, and I am also going to share a document with a sample essay and some samples of strategies and justification. Questions with the strategies and the justification as a part of the answer. All right?
Okay, all right, thank you very much. All right, so how can we develop the justification part? Answers are justified when students can make reasonable, realistic, and feasible connections between their opinions and evidence by answering these questions for the examiner. So now all this is saying to you, if I'm going to put forward a strategy, does it make sense? In short, does it make sense? Now you have to ask yourself, how will the plans or arguments help to solve the problem? Because remember, they pose a problem in the question. You have to develop a strategy, a plan of action to solve it. Good. Then you need to ask yourself, what will happen as a result of this strategy? This is where you start to question yourself now. Pick your own brain. If I put this plan forward to solve the problem of crime, will it actually lead to the reduction of crime in the community? You have to ask yourself that. Then you have to say, who will be helped by the strategy that I am putting forward? That's how you justify the persons, you know. So if you say that it is your member of parliament who will help, you have to put it forward and see who will be impacted by him being involved, right? And then, how will the people be helped? So, these resource persons are involved in the solution. How will the community be impacted? And then you have to ask yourself, why are all people concerned going to see the strategy as successful? This is when you start to justify the plan that you put forward. Now, what we have realized over the years is that students will put strategies, a plan of action forward and it doesn't hold water. So when it comes on to justifying why it's going to be successful, they leave that part. Because from the get-go, they didn't think through the problem, who it affects, how we can fix it, and if it will be successful. So we have put together these 4 little questions. Says, what are the strengths of the answer? We call this a SWOT toolkit. What are the strengths of the answer? Then you have to ask yourself, what are the weaknesses of the answer? Then, are there opportunities to improve what I suggested? Then what threats are there to the success of the strategy? You have to ask yourself that, and if when you answer, you can go in now and fix up the response that you're giving, it will give you a more justified response where you can maximize some marks. Are there any questions? Are there any questions? No questions so far in the chat?
None in the chat.
Okay, so now let us see where this is going to take us. Let's look at a question. And I'm going to give you a minute. Look at the question there and see if you understand what it's asking you to do. The community of Newcastle has been experiencing a steady increase in the incidence of burglary over the past 18 months. They have complained bitterly to the police in the area about the problem. Now you are going to suggest giving full details, one strategy that the police may use to reduce incidents of burglary in the neighborhood. Think about it. Let's think about it. I have moved over my screen so that we are going just looking at the question here. I see some persons have raised their hands. Could you help them, please? The community of Newcastle has been experiencing a steady increase in the incidence of burglary over the past 18 months. They have complained bitterly to the police in their area about the problem. Suggest giving full details, one strategy that the police may use to reduce incidents of burglary in your neighborhood. Any hands in the chat there?
Yes.
Go ahead.
They could put somebody to watch in the area.
Sebastian, when you say to put somebody to watch, what do you mean?
Miss.
Yes?
They could send an agent to be neighborhood watching.
Okay, hold on a minute there now. Hold on a minute. They could put in an agent to do neighborhood watch.
Miss?
Hold on a minute. I'll soon take your response. Hold on. And you remember we said that sometimes the solution lies socially within the community. The response you just gave that they could have an agency to do neighborhood watch. Actually, the community members themselves that would start a neighborhood watch group. Okay? So, all right, good. Let's take it from there and build on that one. You have, yes?
Miss, you could probably have more police personnel patrolling the area, miss, or you could have the police set up like a camp over there, miss.
Okay, all right. Thanks.
So the response time would be faster.
Okay. All right, hold on. Somebody needs to mute.
Me, miss.
All right. Because we're getting feedback. Someone else's mic was open along with yours. All right, so let's take that one at a time. Yes, the neighborhood watch is a good one. But why is forming a neighborhood watch group a likely successful thing to do? I see 6 raised hands there. Somebody's going to tell me why neighborhood watch is a possibly successful action to take to solve the problem of burglary.
Okay, this is likely to work because as soon as the group of people who are vigilating the zone, they could as soon as they see any abnormality,
yes,
they could call the agents in the like, yeah, they could call basically.
Who are they going to call, Sebastian?
They're going to call the agents of the neighborhood. No, wait.
Remember, they are the neighborhood watch.
The agents conducting the neighborhood watch.
Okay, they are the neighborhood watch. So all members of the community are part of the neighborhood watch because we are watching the community. So when we see something abnormal happening, you're saying they would call, but call who?
They would call the police.
Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you. Because
Yes,
what we need to know now is that when a neighborhood watch is being created, is being formed, the police actually help the community to get it done. There is a guideline, a procedure that has to be followed to form a neighborhood watch, and the police actually has to help the citizens to get that done. So good one. Any other suggestion out there? Somebody had mentioned a soldier camp or a police camp in the area. Do you want to explain, somebody, how would having a police post or a camping site for our soldiers help? Somebody with their hands in the chat, could they be helped, please? Yes, go ahead.
Miss, I wasn't the young miss that had mentioned the state of emergency or the camp of police, miss, but my suggestion is by placing officers in different areas or areas that are frequently targeted, since it's like a community, miss, you know, that maybe, say for example, it's apartment complex, maybe block B is targeted most because it's more of in an open area and there's not a lot of buildings around it, miss. So in order to keep watch, they could place officers in different areas in order to keep watch and monitor the area in order to catch the burglar in action.
All right. So now we have to bear in mind, good one, thank you very much for participating. We have to bear in mind the cost attached to the strategy that you just mentioned. So, all right, let's say the community of Newcastle. It's a large community and it's neighboring 2 other large communities. Maybe it is that they could put a security post, a police post there. A police post is a smaller version of a police station, right? You would have less police officers there, but at the same time, it would be manned by officers, right? So yes, you could put a police post there, and because the police, they were active in formulating the neighborhood program, whenever you call, you would more likely to get a fast response. All right, so let's look at the answers we have there. And I say it's a poor answer, weak answer, based on what we know you can come up with. Look at that, students. What could be considered a weak answer or an answer that could not get you maximum points? Take a minute. All right, so the poor answer says, police can talk to the residents regularly. When the police talks to residents regularly, they will know they remember their situation. How will remembering their situation solve the situation? How will talking to the residents regularly fix anything? The problem of burglary is still in the community, right? So, yes, you identify the stakeholder to say the police is the group that you would look to for help. But the student did not give real world specific examples and did not address the problem, which is burglary. The person only said, remember their situation. What's your situation? You have to speak to it specifically. Then I would say the student could have shown relationship between community involvement and crime reduction. When you have more people involved in addressing a problem, it is more likely that you will get to a solution, a permanent solution to it, because you have more people involved. All right? The reader of that answer can question students' knowledge of social issues. If you're going to tell me that just talking regularly to residents to let them know you remember their situation will reduce burglary, I have to say to myself, does this student understand what qualifies something to be a social issue? Crime is a social issue. But why is it classified as a social issue? Can anyone quickly tell us? Why is crime a social issue? 5 raised hands. Can anyone tell us why crime is a social issue? Yes, go ahead.
I'm seeing some answers in the chat, Mrs. Crombie Murray, because it is a constant problem, because it can't stop, because it is widespread and affects the norms and values of a society, because it affects a large number of people.
That one is key.
It is widespread and affects the norms and values of society. Has a negative impact on society, right?
Yes.
Because it affects ongoing problem, because it is an ongoing problem and affects a society.
Yes. So for something to be classified as a social issue, it has to go against the norms of society. It is difficult to solve. It will take a lot of involvement by private sector and public sector. And it has far-reaching negative effects on the population. All right, yes, so it shows that we are studying. So now, let's go over and look at a more justified answer. Here it is. One strategy could be organizing a community relations branch in the police division responsible for the area, with police officers assigned to the community. This suggestion is similar to forming a police post, all right? Now, after you give the strategy, you go on to talk about its effectiveness. Now, why it will make sense. The formation of a community relations branch of the force will see officers being directly assigned to the area. This program will help to improve the relationship between the community and the police force. With a positive working relationship, residents will feel safer giving information to the police about burglaries that have taken place and may call the officers' direct numbers if they witness a burglary in progress. This will help to reduce burglaries as information is reaching law enforcement officers in real time so that criminals can be apprehended. When burglars are arrested, it will serve as a signal to other burglars not to come to the area as they are more likely to be caught. Can you see the difference? Let me reduce the screen now and show you both answers together. All right. You see the difference between the more justified answer and the weak answer? Let me tell you why this answer is more justified. We are doing a SWOT. And you see the SWOT side by side? The stronger justification is the SWOT in yellow. Student identified the need, the supply relationship between stakeholders with a relevant example. So the relationship between community and police. There were no strategic or structural weaknesses because the answer told why the community posts and the relationship with the police will cause a reduction in crime. Remember the answer said that when people see crimes being committed, burglaries in this case, they would know who to call and they would get a quicker response from the police. And with quicker response, you would have burglars being arrested. And we can safely say in Jamaica, one reason why crime is so high is that persons are not seeing the rate at which crimes are solved is not publicized. So when people see that these burglars are being caught, it will be a signal to them, don't come in this community because our community watch group is strong, right? Student may have cited a survey or an example of another community that the strategy has worked in to back up or justify, give more strength to the justification. And there are no threats as the solution was well explained. There's no hole in the answer because you tell what was needed, you told what was needed, you gave it there, and you told why the formation of the community relations branch or the police post is likely to work. Any answers in the chat there? Any questions?
Just comment. Yes, Miss. Yes. Well explained. No questions as yet.
All right. And probably they need to be reminded, Mrs. Finch-Vassell, that for the essay in social studies, there's no conclusion, outright conclusion needed for your essay. So you have to wrap up the justification of your answer in a solid way that it closes your essay.
Okay, Mrs. Crombie-Murray, there's a question signed beside the word essay. Yes, there is a section where you are expected to write extended essays. So there is an essay section.
Yes, and the person may have been late because Ms. Finch-Vassell reminded us that we write how many essays, Miss? 5?
It's not 5 essays. There's one essay in the...
5 questions, sorry.
5 questions, right.
Yes.
But the regional integration, I noticed, is usually an essay type question.
And the option.
And the options, right. Tourism,
yes. Option, yes.
Consumer affairs and communication. You have to write essays. Somebody said, OMG, 5 questions for which are essays. Feel to cry, don't cry.
Finch-Vassell.
Yes.
Miss Finch-Vassell.
Yes.
I don't want to cry.
They don't have to worry about the essay because it's the same format of the short the structured section for question 1, 2, and 3 in section A. It's nothing difficult. It's just only written in paragraphs. One, you know, it's the same format, the same thing.
All right, I think some people are getting a little flustered here. You are not required to write 5 essays, okay? No, not at all.
No.
The essay is in section B, where you're writing on communication, tourism, or consumer affairs. And then there's another essay, but the essays are so structured. All right, we're going to show you the structure of the essay just to allay your fears. Okay, so you're not writing 5 essays. A lot of the questions are short answer questions, just 2 essays. Okay?
I apologize for that, for nearly giving you a heart attack, students. I made an error. It's 5 questions to be answered. I'm sorry.
Right. No tears. I say, Lord of mercy, tears. No tears. All right?
No tears. You're fine. You're fine.
You're fine. You're going to be fine.
Mrs. French Vessel, they can take little screenshots if they're going to be studying tonight.
Yes. If you are willing, Mrs. Combe-Murray, I can also, you can send this to me and I will, or you can put a link to it in the chat if you have a link to this document and are willing to share.
Okay. Yes, we'll talk how to get it out to them.
Okay. All right.
That's it for me.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Combe-Murray.
Close this. There are questions. We can deal with it.
All right.
You're
I
most
will
welcome.
be studying tonight. Yes, we know you will be studying. So just let me show you an example of the essay question and then we'll be.
So let me stop sharing.
Right. Thank you. All right.
You're welcome, ma'am.
So just to, let me go to the essay, just a sample. So no need to worry. Oh, before we go to the essay, I just want to show you, to make you aware of something else that sometimes come up in the exams. And okay. All right, so are you seeing my screen? This is right?
Yes,
we're seeing your screen.
All right, so sometimes, thank you, there are what we call stimulus materials, such as tables, population pyramid charts, a statement or a scenario, and that is used to get you to think along a particular line, right? Or to just look at it and answer the question, right? So you may see, and let me go to presentation.
Tori and Duncan said that she's not hearing.
Okay. All right, so you may have a bit of stimulus material like this chart, and all you have to do is to identify the branch of government, right, that is missing. So here, all you have to do to get that 1 mark is to just identify the branch of government that is missing. So we know we have 3 branches, the executive, and we have the judiciary here. So which one is missing? Anything in the chat? Which branch is missing?
Legislature.
Yes, legislature. Yes.
Okay. All right. Yes. Great. Thank you. So you might see that. You may see a population pyramid, and they may ask you a question. Give one possible reason for each of the following. So you have to be able to interpret the diagram, right? A large population in the age group 0 to 15 years. So this is actually like a bar chart. So you would look quickly for the 0, which is at the base here, right up to 15, right? And read the x-axis and the y-axis. X-axis, thousands of population, and you have male and female. So why do we have so many people who are 0 to 15 years, right? So the birth rate might be very high. So we have a lot of people there. And next question, the size of the population in the age group 75 years and older. So you go to your graph again and you find on the y-axis the 75 and older, and you'll see that the population, the bars are much shorter, indicating that persons are not living very long, right? So healthcare might not be very good, or nutrition or something. So people are not living very long, okay? Or you might see a table and they ask you to write 2 statements about the information in the table. And if you did your SBA and did it well, you will be able to answer these questions, because in your SBA, you would have used statistical diagrams like the tables and the pie charts and the graphs and so on, right? So you can look at the table and identify overall trends. There's so much you can write. So you can look at the trend, right, in terms of food crop in a particular year, or you can look at the trend across the years from 2009 to 2011. So yam production, or you can talk about the vegetable production that declined from 250,000 tons in 2009 to 210,000 tons in 2010, right? So look out for these types of questions as well, where you are given a stimulus and then you are asked to answer a question. Now, this is what got some of you concerned, the extended essay question. But CXC has been good to you because the extended essays are really written in such a way that they guide you. You know what to put in paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, paragraph 4. So usually you are given a topic, the essay topic. Regional integration allows Caribbean countries to expand trade by forming a common market, right? That is the title of the essay. But what CXC does, always does, so don't worry, they'll do it again this year, is to give you guidelines to write in your essay. So you need to read this section carefully. Write an essay on the topic above. In your essay, explain the terms common market. So you know the essay, you can start off with that. In your first paragraph, you give them a definition or explanation of the term common market. Then explain 2 ways. So you might go to a second paragraph now. Explain 2 ways in which Caribbean businesses can benefit from a common market. So that's your next paragraph. Then you go to another one. Give 1 reason why achieving full economic integration in the Caribbean may be difficult. Right? So that's another. And then finally, suggest giving full details, 3 strategies that CARICOM leaders may use to increase trade within the Caribbean region. And you are to explain fully why each of these strategies is likely to be successful. So you see all that Mrs. Crombie-Murray just did with you about strategies and justification, you apply that here, okay? So you're asked for 3 strategies and the justification, right? Why would each strategy be successful, okay? So this is your extended essay. So it is clearly outlined for you. So you get an essay outline, okay? And so
hands are up.
Follow this outline.
Melanie
okay.
and Renardo.
Go ahead with your question, Melanie first.
Melanie, go ahead.
Miss, I was to remove my raise hand after you asked the question, so that's fine.
Okay.
Melanie was saying what? Is an error? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
There was another student.
Right, there is Renardo. Is he really up?
Renardo.
All right, students, remember in profile 2, right? You are getting marks for organization. So your essay has to be properly organized, okay? So you are going to use paragraphs, you're going to have your introduction, you're going to have your conclusion, and you're going to have the body in between.
Bernardo, you can speak now.
Go ahead.
I unmuted the person, and then I don't know what went wrong. I unmuted him. His mic was open. It's not a question. All right, go ahead. You're now unmuted.
Hold on, Miss. Nobody not going to explain some of the terms that was in the outline.
Which terms are you talking about?
Go up to the outline thing.
I'm not sure what you're referring to as the outline.
And let's use this as
the
a
common
essay
market,
outline.
Common market, benefits, and so on.
That's what is on the screen now.
This is what you're referring to?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, man, we're getting there. And I think the sample essay that you'll be getting is based on this question as well. All right? All right, so you'll be getting a sample essay with the answer to this question, okay? All right. But the content is not the only thing. You have to be able to organize the essay properly, okay? So you're going to be using paragraphs, and you start off with your introduction just as if you were writing an essay for language arts, for English language, okay? So you have a topic sentence, which is the main point, right? Main point in your essay. So when they ask you to explain 2 ways Caribbean businesses can benefit from a common market, and you're going to use words like one way or the first way or so on. So you're sending a signal to the marker to say, all right, this is the first way and this is the second way. All right. So once you say this, the first way that, or one way that Caribbean businesses can benefit from a common market is, anybody, any suggestions? You can have an increased market, a larger market. So in Jamaica, we only have about 3 million people. But if we are going to, say, have a common market where goods can be produced and sold right across the Caribbean, you are going to increase your market size to about 10 million or something. So instead of producing for just 2 million, you are producing for 10 million, right? And you are definitely going to have what we call economies of scale. That means your production cost may be cheaper. And if you can produce the product at a cheaper rate, then you can sell it cheaper, right? Cheaper for the people, and you can increase your profit margin as well, all right? So you're going to get a sample essay, okay? So you need your topic sentence, and you're going to need your supporting details, like examples or evidence to support what you're saying. And then you're going to need a closing sentence, and that sentence, use that sentence to link what you have said back to the question, okay? And write in complete sentences. And importantly, we want you to use transitional terms, right? Like firstly, however, therefore, in addition to. So the document that you're going to get, right, will give you a list of these transitional words, okay? All right, so it's actually after 4. I am hoping that you have all registered so that the materials that we're going to share, right, you can get it in your email, and I'm going to send it off just as we're finished with the meeting, right? So you can use it to study. right? So the common market, that definition is going to be there, right? And all the different factors and so on, those will be there. Or I'm going to also share it with your teachers, right? Because some of you got the invitations through your teachers. So when I share it with your teachers can share it with you, okay? So you'll be getting that essay as well as some questions and answers about justification and how to write the justification and actual samples. All right. I am going to put a link to that document also in the chat so that you can access it now. I have just put a link to an evaluation instrument in the chat. So we want you to do an evaluation of the session. All right, the second document that I'm going to put now, I am going to put the link to the sample essay. And I'm going to put, all right, sample essay is coming. I'm going to put the link to the presentation that was just done, the PowerPoint presentation, persons were asking. So you will get that as well. That's in the chat. So that's a presentation. And I'm going to put the sample answers now, okay? All right, just give me a second so I can grab it from my computer and I will put it in the chat so that you have access to it now so that you can use it as you study. All right, in the meantime, are there any questions? One second, I'm just getting this document for you. One second, please. This is what? Having a little challenge here. I'm not sure what is happening.
All right, Mrs. Winchester and Ms. Stephanie Wright, I just sent the justification pamphlet.
Right.
I'm not, where did you post it? I'm not seeing it.
I sent it to Miss Vashel. Should I send it to you as well?
Please, I'll be so happy.
Okay, ma'am.
Do you have my email address?
I saw it on one we got this morning.
Okay, yes.
You want to send me it privately?
Okay.
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 All right. Document.
I sent it. I sent it, Mrs. Cromby-Murray.
All right. Sorry about the delay, students.
All right, teacher, pulling it up, pulling it up.
Jean, why are you up crying? Jean, why are you crying?
Stress. Okay. Can you tell us what is so terrible? There is a link for the sample answers. All right, let me get the document from Mrs. Cromby-Murray, and I'm going to share it with you.
Oh, she said that. Oh, she said he joined. Somebody said that they joined late.
Okay, they joined late.
So maybe that's why they are crying. So the PowerPoint presentation will help you.
Okay, maybe they want some persons were asking about the recording. But if I have your email address, or I'll just share it with the teachers so that they can share it with you.
Yes.
So I'll
right,
put
they can benefit, yes.
Right. So I am getting the document that was just shared by Mrs. Cromby-Murray. Right, and I will share it with you as soon as it is downloaded. Oh, my internet is unstable. So it's taking a little while. But please bear with us. Students, you are going to be fine.
Mrs. Russell,
Yes.
I'm not seeing your link. Yes, don't worry, man. I'm not seeing the link for the sample essay.
All right, let me do it again.
All right, Miss Wright.
Yes, Mrs.
Check your email.
Okay.
Sent to you, ma'am.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
All right, I see a Jean Prince. Is that a teacher? Is that how we're doing it, Mrs. Wright? The teachers are putting their emails there? Is that how we're doing it?
I assume so because I am seeing some emails. I don't know if they're teachers' emails. I just saw the link and it just disappeared.
Scroll up. I think I saw it too.
Yeah, my laptop is acting up.
All right, so
somebody
said that they are students. So we'll share all of these documents with your teachers. So if you do not get them here, you will definitely get them from your teachers.
The link is there for 4:20. Check the timeline and the messages 4:20. The link is there.
For what?
I'm seeing the Google Docs. And then there is, ooh, this is going so fast. The students are saying we have to go home and pray. Come on, study.
Study, yes.
Study along with that prayer. Get your information straight and follow what we told you this evening. Your teachers have been working with you. Don't panic. There's a student with something to say. Shamil's iPhone. Shamil's iPhone. If you could raise your hand. Shania's iPhone. Okay, I found you.
Hi, Miss. I was saying that for the paper 2 that we'll be getting, Miss, CXC removed section B, well, the original section B, where it was supposed to be 2 essays, but now we're getting only 1 essay, Miss. If you look on the revised topics that they released, Miss, you see section A and section B, where it says section B, there are 4 topics and you answer all questions, and for section B, you get tourism, regional integration, and let me quickly look at the screenshot that I received.
No, that's the same thing. It's nothing new.
Miss, it's only 1 email. It's only 1 essay we're getting.
Explain that to her, Mrs. Wright.
And the regional integration question will be worded as an essay still. Because there's a regional integration question in section A. Am I correct, Mrs. Crumble Murray?
Yes.
Am I correct?
Regional integration is always
it's always there. It is section A. It will be in the extended essay format.
Also, it will still be an essay, not a question.
Not a short answer, full essay.
Oh
yes,
Lord.
dear. No, stop saying, oh my, I'll be fine.
Okay, students, it's taken a little longer than I anticipated. So I will share it with the teachers and they will share it with you. So by latest tomorrow morning, you will get it. Right, I realize that some of you need access to the document as well. So I will also be opening up that document. Somebody said, no, please don't share with what is the no, please about. So long. I'll try to get it to you tonight. If I have, I'll send it to all the email addresses that I have, right? So please don't worry.
That is why it was important for them to register.
All right, you will be fine. I'm going to put the link in again because some persons did not get it. So I'm going to.
And one person is there, Shanna's iPhone says, Miss, I don't have a teacher.
Is it?
Okay.
The same young miss that just asked, made a comment about the question.
Are you a private candidate? Is that what you're saying?
I wonder if that's what she means. Shania iPhone, let me allow you to answer, Mrs. Finch Vassal. What do you mean by you don't have a teacher?
Miss, I don't think the teachers that are in the meeting right now, Miss, they're not my teachers.
No, man, we know that. We know that.
Students.
There are many teachers who are not in the session, right? But I have Google Classroom with teachers, and there's also a WhatsApp group, so we will share. And I'm sure your teacher will get it and then share with you. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Miss.
I just sent the link again, and I will have to open the document. Tell me, students, you also need to get your MOE Schools email address, because sometimes things that go from my email, they're only accessible to persons who have the MOE Schools address, email address. So that is a challenge sometimes, and I have to go in and open documents for all of you. So each student is supposed to have a MOE Schools email address, all right? But students, this is now the end of our session, right? I know you will do well. Just continue to prepare. Just continue to prepare, calm down, relax, go into your exam calm and well prepared, and you will be fine. Yes, we started at 2 and it is now 4:26. So we are done at this time, all right? So I will make the recording available to your teachers as well as all the documents that we have here.
Quite in order. Yes, and once they review it and follow the instructions, all will be well.
Yes, you will be fine. You will be fine. Okay.
Read the question. Remember, we went through the skills. When it asks you to define, make sure you define. When it tell you to state, just state, but give the core characteristics. When it says explain, go into detail with the facts, okay?
And the suggestion and the justification, Mrs. Crumby-Murray went through that with you, and you'll get that document, okay? You want the link? All right, you will get the link. There, somebody posted it again. All right, so I'll go in now and I'll ensure that your teachers have it. Will there be another session tomorrow? No, we didn't plan for another session tomorrow. No, we didn't. All right. So all the best in your exams. All right, all the best in your exams. We know you will do well. And I'm going to post the link again, okay? All right, thank you very much, teachers, Mrs. Crumby-Murray, Mrs. Stephanie Wright-Grant, Mrs. Natalie Mackenzie-Williams.
You're welcome, Mrs. Finch-Vassal.
Was here with us earlier. Mr. Black, I can't forget him. He did the flyers, and we were able to send out the flyers, and all the teachers from JASE who assisted in various ways. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you, students, and all the best again. And prepare.
Bye, team. Bye, students. You'll do well.
Bye.
I'm going to give you access to the document now. Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Wonderful. Bye-bye.